about them now. I'll start with Binki Taylor, founder of the Brixton Project. So to sum up, Binki has given us this lovely quote on this topic, which is ethics need to be grounded in meaning and should be guided by lived experience rather than motivated by a need to protect an institution, as it often feels. That tells us something about where Binki will be coming from.
Hi everyone, I'm Binki from the Brixton Project, and really what I'm going to do today, because I'm not an academic and I'm not a practitioner, but what the Brixton Project has always strived to do is to involve community in thinking about the future, thinking about what challenges us from the roots of creativity and imagination. I'm really delighted to hear all of those things come up really in both of what we've been saying. Thank you both for such inspiring dialogue really to sort of set this off. I feel really well set up and a little humbled by your words, and thanks everybody for coming. It's really nice to see some familiar faces in the room as well. Quite a few familiar faces. Good. I'm going to do what Harsha did, because I thought it was a genius move, which is think of a time. And the time I'd like you all to think about is when you have been questioned. And in the process of that questioning, what's been going through your head, and how did you respond? Both in ways that you could document, but also what perhaps else was going on. What were you thinking as you were being questioned? So our work, we started the Brixton Project in 2019, and we were a group, at that point, we were a group of 5 local residents, lots of creatives, me, did lots of different things, but we were all kind of wedded to Brixton. We brought up our families here, we lived here for a very long time, and we really wanted to use the creativity, or replay the creativity that is all over our community in ways that kind of showed voice in a bigger, more powerful way. So for a few years, 2014 to 2019, we ran something called the Brixton Design Trail. Brixton Design Trail worked to a theme every year and invited people just to make art, performance, whatever it is that you wanted to do to that theme. The theme was always something that would raise a sense of collective belonging. It might spark an individual thought. It was really about galvanising people's energy, really, and appetite for change and for picking up and working with change. So in 2019, we became a more formal organisation, although really quite informal, very intuitive. It's very intuitively driven. I don't think we ever had a strategy as far as, our theory of change was, what would it be like if we just flooded a community with creativity? What would that be like? How would that work? And so we're now coming along that journey, and what I'm going to show you is a little bit of that journey today. So some of the work you can see and you will recognise, I hope, from just being around in Brixton, is all about communities telling their own stories. Now, if I was an institution wanting to know what is going on here, just look at this and listen where you can, because all the information you need is not hard to find, and you don't necessarily have to ask a lot of questions. But you do need to just kind of be available to, just pick up on the stories that you're seeing and the sentiments that you're seeing, and the mixture of heritage, culture, resistance, all coming together to create a picture of who we are. So there is Marvin Gaye on the side of International House. That popped up in 2020. It's facing the police station. Can't tell that from this picture. But this is about what's, this is the song, what's going on. Kind of says enough. I think what you can also see there is Windrush, which is just a kind of a story of heritage, resistance, a story of place and belonging, that we try to involve just as many people as possible in. 2021, for 3 years, we were involved in a project called 81 Acts of Exuberant Defiance to bring shape to, from the community's perspective, what happened in the uprisings in 1981. The sense of a rapidly gentrifying Brixton where the community's memory of what happened just sort of disappearing, it became really important for the stories that were collected over a 3-year period by various community leaders, and this is where the research bit comes in perhaps, to be replayed and to find their place absolutely in the fabric of our streets. Now there is so much in that, which is, this is a community owning its history, owning its story, and at a time where it has been contested, uprising, riot, just says it all, really. And so the importance of being able to do this and to sort of put this in the centre of Brixton. And there are murals that remain, and there are little nods to it throughout Brixton. There's a trail that you can go on. Just so important in ownership of a narrative and the freedom to put it in your place, and there is huge amounts of power in that. And this is what we then, over the preceding years, 2021 onwards, have been trying to sort of ensure that the essence of that is in every project that we do. And we call them narrative leadership projects, really, because we want the community's narrative to lead, and we want that to be the thing that instigates change or action. Raced ahead here. There's something about the use of public space that, again, is significantly important in the reclaim that we are talking about, and the nod to belonging that we are talking about. So I just want us to stay focused in what we have around us in order to embed and create a different story of power, really, in how our stories are used and how they are viewed. Okay. So as the result, well, not the result, but the kind of Brixton Project is on an ever-changing journey, really. So in 2024, we started something called the Community Research Exchange, because we didn't really know what community research was, if I'm really honest. And we thought, we'll talk about community research. We had a great idea that was based on kind of creativity and imagination and this narrative leadership. There was so much research happening at the time, post-pandemic, that was invasive, extractive. We were asked to be involved in that. We couldn't really be involved in that. One kind of side story. We were asked to do an engagement project into vaccine hesitancy in young Black people. At that time. And we just couldn't run an engagement on that. So we kind of spent the money on a week with 10 amazing young people. We went on nature walks, we made things, we drew things, we talked, we danced, we did all sorts of kind of movement. And it was just, this actually has to be about healing. I don't want to ask you questions about why you haven't had a jab. You know, and there was huge value in that. So, you know, that's just a side story. But 2024, what is all of this community research about? And, you know, Harry's here, and we've had many conversations about what it's about. But we wanted to bring together, policymakers, practitioners, and community into the room to have a conversation about what is it, how can it be less extractive, why is this so important at this time, and what does it really mean for a community to be in charge of its research? I think it's sitting in the corner over there. So we had a great 3 days, and alongside that we were able to show our practice, which is come into a room, make a picture, listen to some music, tell a story in a way that you want to tell that story. And I think we were talking at that time about Lambeth and celebration. We wanted to create a space which is joyous and fun, where the sharing of the sharing of your thoughts and your imagination comes freely and naturally, and there's a collective spirit in the room which feels really warm. And we feel that all of those qualities in the conditions are just so important that, as you said, China, that the process is something that gives value, and that value needs to come back to the people that are that are the participants in that. That value should not be extracted and go anywhere else. So if the least that happens in an afternoon in International House, where you've thrown some paint around, you've talked to some nice people, you've come together, you're going to leave feeling slightly buoyed up. That's a good thing. And that's a good thing for all of us to feel in our space. So we did the hard stuff, and we had some really fantastic young people who spent the week investigating and talking to everyone about, you know, what is this stuff? How does it feel? How does it feel for you to be questioned for a change? You know, and they reported back, so it was a kind of vehicle for them. But we understood so much from those 3 days, I think, in lots of different ways. We understood the constraints of working in this space. We understood also community research is a title that can be identified, as you say, by institutions. Those institutions are really funders. And so understanding that there is an agenda always being set somewhere. This is not, you know, we're not talking about health for any reason. You know, the agenda is always being set, and we need to work with awareness of that. If we can then counter some of that with, well, actually, we're going to talk about celebration. We're going to talk about celebration. You know, we're going to, create a juxtaposition. So that was 2024, and as ever, I think things shift. You know, a community is not a static thing. So our response to what is kind of required now to create different levels of belonging, ownership, sense of kind of ease at walking towards a future, which is very challenging and difficult. This is just a few pictures that just show you. Oh, sorry. Are you in there? A few pictures that just show you that these are happy experiences. Some of the people in the room have had those happy experiences, I think. But yeah, so for 2025, what we recognised is more fun. This was a custard pie throwing moment. We won't talk about that, but it was really very good. But actually what is happening in the spaces that we create is not so much research it is an exchange of knowledge. It's an exchange of imagination and ideas. And that is owned and shared by the community as a whole. And it's something that we can all get excited about. So what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do with what we found out over the 3 days that we spent in November? Well, we're going to do something with it. So understanding what the barriers are, they are, maybe they are about collaboration. Maybe they are about, how do we practically funnel money down into a community that hasn't got a label on it by a funder or an institution. So that's what we are attempting to do with that. And then alongside the Community Research Exchange, our next latest project is called the Centre for Collaboration in Community Connectedness. Now, you probably worked out that we didn't come up with that. And you probably worked out that this is an academically driven project. So the Centre for Collaboration in Community Connectedness, is there a slide? Oh, it's just more joy. Centre for the Collaboration in Community Connectedness. So I think also visually, you can see the huge, and I haven't actually just made that up, but you can see the huge contrast in what we're talking about. Suddenly we're in a dry academic space, and it's all very tight, and it's a bit uncomfortable, and it is so top down. Excuse me if it sounds like I'm venting and it's a therapy session, but Franca, our embedded researcher, who is battling through just the logistics of ethics in this project, which is a 4-year project involving 5 communities across the UK. Each of those communities is attached to an academic lead in another university. So there are like 4 universities involved, all with different ethics processes, all working with communities in slightly different ways. And then in the middle, the practitioner in the middle is our embedded researcher, who is literally ripping her hair out, trying to, being asked to put together an ethics application for a research project that doesn't even have a shape yet. And we're saying, actually, we want to take it to the Lambeth Community Research Network. We want that process to deliver our ethics before it goes anywhere else. We might not be able to make that happen, but we're going to come back with what we've got. I'm going to read some words of Franca's because she actually articulates it so much better than I can, because it is a daily experience of being pulled in 2 different directions with the continuous intention of doing the best thing by us as community actors and by the wider community we want to really benefit from this project if we can actually find its heart and soul, which we're going to attempt to do. So in Franca's words, the reason why BXP and the 4 other community organisations across the UK were brought into C4 is to co-produce research with local communities in a research project that would otherwise be policy oriented. Which brings a conundrum. We want to co-produce that work with local people and so involve them before the decision-making process actually begins. We want them to shape the study and how we should be doing it and who should be involved. But we have, I don't know how many academics are involved in this at the centre and in these other universities. It's a lot of people, and they are scooping up, when we first got involved in this project, £10 million research project. I was like, oh this is so exciting. Enough said. You know, what ends up in terms of what the Brixton Project get remunerated for this is not even 0.0005% of that budget. I mean, it is just, yeah, it's with, I am without words. Sorry, that was another aside. So for Franca, she has now got to battle the university ethics board in one place, which is kind of the local university from our perspective, who has very rigorous kind of criteria for this ethics design, which is not about us or you or what it is that we want to experience over the next 3 years or how we're going to do it. It's just not about that. It's insisting on a level of detail in a project that has not yet been defined. I mean, these things are actually just utterly ridiculous. But these are the things that we have to, these are the hoops that we are now jumping through. So coming from this kind of quite, not strategically driven, very intuitive environment, we are finding ourselves jumping through hoops. I'm finding my heart racing at frustration and fury at being kind of put in this lowly box, which is kind of community, and all about the institution. It's also about the individuals who are traversing their way through the institution. So there is huge hierarchy at play in the academic world, which people want to get the next best job. They want to move to the next best place. So, we better just actually put up and get on with it. But it's not really going to work like that. So back to Franca's work. I think you've met, haven't you, with Harry and Danny in the corner, which is brilliant. And we are hoping to set up a process which is robust enough to withstand, the weather of what's coming at it from Sheffield, London, Met, wherever else, who wants to have a little paddle about in our project in Brixton. And part of our journey is very much to report back on this process. Because the Centre for Collaboration and Community Connectedness has set out with this kind of grand claim that it is going to be the academic project which kind of levels the playing field between academia and communities. And it's not happening, people. But that gives me kind of carte blanche to just say, I'm going to excuse me, sorry, no, you haven't done that. Excuse me. We have to keep fighting for it. But it's disappointing that we are in that position. And it's disappointing because it's also halting what could be a really amazing opportunity for our community to look at connectedness and how it works for us and how it could work better for us and what we want to do with that, And really what I hope we get to at the end of this 4-year process is a body of knowledge that is entirely relevant to the people in this room. Whether you are a resident, whether you are a practitioner, whether you run a business or an organisation, understanding how we connect and therefore what resilience is delivered to us is something that is potentially really very, very important to us. So we are changing the system from within as much as we possibly can, and without that and outside of that, we continue to paint things, do bits of tapestry and whatever, and bring communities together around what it is to belong and to own those stories of belonging. Thank you very much.